Essential Scares podcast, the only show that dares to ask the question, is it essential? I am your host, Corbin, and with me today, as always, is Bobby.
I burnt myself cooking dinner.
And Alan.
I didn't. Hi, everybody.
Oh, we have got quite a show for you today. We are going to be discussing the penultimate chapter of our Insidious month right here with Insidious Chapter 3.
How inventive.
But before we get into it, Bobby has a spoiler warning.
I do. This will serve as your first one and only spoiler warning for the film Insidious Chapter 3. Boom! If you do not want this movie spoiled for you, skip to the time code provided in our show notes or description for our essential spoiler-free discussion. Ahem. You know, I really wish that this movie took place just a few years later so we could just deal with some Patrick Wilson action. Alan?
A few years prior, we opened to a female character who is trying to find Elise to speak to her mother, who has somewhat recently died. And this is not the Elise we remember from the previous two movies, frankly. She's sullen and downtrodden, and we figure out why a little later. At the end of the day, though, Elise basically says, hey, we can't do this because I'm being pursued by, you guessed it, the same ghost that's been in both of the previous movies. The serial killer ghost reimagined
Darth
thing.
Maul Goblin?
No, that comes later. But long and the short of it, our main character girl, I don't remember her name, she has an unfortunate accident. A very funny accident, if I may add.
It's so good. It's so funny.
That results in half of her soul being taken by some weird dude who is waving at her. And it's basically the same kind of plot as the previous types of movies. We have to go into the further to save our friends. And let's open it from there. So do we want to talk about our failed attempt to watch this movie for the first time?
We could. Yeah. Oh, now we have to. Now we have to.
I'm just gonna poison the well.
Yeah.
I have to.
Okay.
We've technically watched this movie twice. We say technically because we had a great idea. Ellen decided to come grace the civilization over this past weekend, and we said, "Hey, let's drink an entire bottle of whiskey and then watch this movie." That was not the plan, but that's how it ended up happening.
Yep.
And Alan and I fell asleep throughout the middle half an hour of the movie. And Corbin, why weren't you around for a large chunk of this film?
I was just physically indisposed.
Corbin pulled a Bobby and violently vomited through a good chunk of this movie. So we ended up watching this movie roughly 1.5 times each. And I would say that it helped me enjoy this movie more. And I feel like probably had you guys have this movie in lower regards. I think that's fair to say.
So for me, it was more so like piecing together the time. It's a lot like, it's funny we talk about it. It's a lot like when if you've ever blacked out while drinking and you go, I remember this, but there's this nebulous gap that I have no concept of what happened there. And that's kind of what it was like to fill in the gaps watching it this morning. Kind of.
Now, keep in mind, I would say none of us reached a blackout state.
No.
We were all within our skis. We just got comfortable on Corbin's very comfortable couches and passed out.
Now,
we flew through that bottle. I mean, there's a reason this happened.
Oh yeah.
We power.
we got sleepy drunk.
We power
drank, which is not blackout drunk. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
But having since watched this movie, yesterday for Alan, yesterday for Corbin, and quite literally, I finished it 15 minutes before we started recording for Bobby. We have vastly different opinions of this movie. Bobby, myself, believes this movie is one of those maybe so bad it's good type films, and I feel like Alan and Corbin think just bad.
I would agree with that. I do think it's just bad.
No, I think that it's shocking how bad it is, actually.
Which, again, I enjoy really bad movies. I will fully admit that. My wife has been watching the show Warrior Nun on Netflix, and I keep going, holy shit, and she thinks that it's a bad thing, but every time the bad shit happens, I'm really enjoying that show because it is that bad.
I think my issue with it is that this movie it's not like insane and bad all the time. And that's what I was expecting, right? So at the end of the second movie, so I didn't know that this was a prequel, right? Until, I mean, I knew before we put it on, but like when
we found out the movie, moment it started too.
Well, yeah. Like when we watched and recorded the movie last week, I certainly didn't know that.
No. But we found out within the first opening crawl that this takes place a few years before Patrick Wilson's whatever family their actual name is happened. Not how many years is a few years? Oh.
A few.
But it's a few.
Anyway.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So I think that like at the end of the second movie, you're set up for something that is definitely ridiculous. It's definitely insane, right? The end of the movie promises a dead psychic fighting people who are also dead, right? And this is very amusing, right? We have the perfect setup for pure hilarity, right? And
that movie sounds badass as fuck. I want to watch that movie.
Yeah, this movie is like, okay, well, what if it was just like the first movie again, but like nowhere near as good? Like,
the first movie, but substantially worse.
Yeah. Yeah,
but the nice lady whose whole character was, hey, she's nice, and that's weird for a medium. What if we made her depressed?
Yeah.
What if we take this character
end of the movie
and just dip her in depression?
At the end of the movie, she's really nice, like maybe too nice. So like, it kind of makes up for how not nice she was for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Well, see, but don't worry, her husband definitely killed himself, and it's super jarring that happened.
They really just kind of dropped that on you, like, boom.
They really didn't give
a movie
give a
is so stupid.
Also, like,
it's so stupid.
They, for a second, they kind of tease you with the fact that maybe they're gonna imply like, older relationships, because they have a couple of married couples in this movie that are together for a very, very long time. And they start to explore Elise as a character. And then when it finally gets around to her husband, she's just like, he was depressed.
He was depressed and killed himself.
That's it? Like, you're telling me we've had
telling me you fight these demons your whole life and this is what gets the guy?
Yeah. And I think that's what bothers me about it, right? Because it's like he knew, and she's been doing this forever. So even like in a James Wan verse movie, you're expecting something a little more interesting than he was a 70-year-old,
or at least something more coked out, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It doesn't have to be interesting, I guess, just more.
Yeah,
more cocaine.
I just wanted something more, right? Yeah. More. I mentioned it last week that remember you even said it. Insidious Chapter 2 was a movie that was more James Wan.
Yeah.
And this
James Wan as like, most was my
yeah. This movie is like, it's just less.
Yeah. This is Lay One out at his, okay, we got to calm it down. And that's not good. But it's also very funny. Because it does. There are some very interesting scenes in this movie. It's like, man, this is a really good like soap opera scene. I like this. This would be in like a good like This Is Us scene. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then the rest of this movie is just like bad, half decent jump scare, bad.
There were a few half decent jump scares. I was shocked actually. Yeah. At how half decent they were.
Yeah.
What surprised me with this, watching it sober, this is like paced like an episode of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, where shit just keeps happening. Bad. It's just, the beginning is so bad about it. You get from like the beginning stages to she is hit by a car in about 20 minutes, feels like 5. They're just zipping through shit so fast. It really just doesn't work very well.
I love how quickly they pick up and drop that she wants to be an actress.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, her legs are destroyed.
Yeah, she can't act now.
Yeah.
What about how the movie starts with a character with no backstory at all, right? Quinn visiting a character that we know, but then the movie makes a very interesting turn by making it Quinn's perspective instead. So you're just following this person around that we don't know anything about,
and don't give a single fuck about.
Yep. And
it's like,
they
dead,
did not help you learn.
Yeah, dead mom, dad who is oddly sympathetic for how shitty he is, like.
Yeah.
I hated
wants
the dad
to be
character.
an actor.
No, I know.
Well,
you're supposed to.
No. I hate him for not. I don't think the reason that you're going for. I hate him because it's like, I don't know. He is like so incompetent. It's like, he can't find a fucking pan, so now I don't know. He was like too incompetent.
Yeah, but he's also weird. They paint him in such a weirdly sympathetic. Like, I think it's the actor,
Probably.
right?
He sells believing his daughter really well with all the crazy shit that happens to her.
Oh yeah. Like, it's almost as if it's two things. It's supposed to be like a dad who's mad because he's like, I'm drowning. Oh my god, I don't know how to do this without your mother. But also he's like, yeah, I'm here for it. Whatever. Like that. You're like, he listens to her so much that you do not believe for a second he wouldn't know that she's vegetarian.
Yeah.
I wrote
that's
that
like,
down. I was like, how can he be so distant he doesn't know she's vegetarian? Like,
yeah,
the movie is
but
not
despite
providing
the
me
fact
with this character.
Yeah, despite the fact that he's like, you're seeing ghost? Yeah, for sure. Like, Patrick Wilson does the thing where it's like the belief but disbelief thing in like a really good way. Like, again, I miss him in this movie a lot.
That is so fun
him
to
in
hear
this
you
movie,
say of all people, Bob.
I didn't think I liked Patrick Wilson. This movie makes me love the man.
It's like, wait a minute.
Oh, he's actually a good actor. What the fuck?
Yeah. I think that, honestly, it was just really hard for me to come back from the dad's character. I don't even remember what his name is.
Dad.
Generic dad. Generic bad dad.
The very first time the dad interacts with Quinn, he says, like, all of the most stereotypical lines. My wife just died, and also I'm a blue-collar employee of some kind.
I'm a boomer.
Would say. Yeah. You know, what are you doing?
No, don't blog it, just eat it. Nobody cares
don't
what
blog
you
it,
had
just
for
eat it.
breakfast.
That was great. Yeah. Which, of course,
his name is Sean, by the way.
Okay. I assumed took place in 2007. That's what I decided.
Yeah.
That times out with her phone.
Kind of a strange thing to be saying in 2007. Also,
yeah. Nobody took pictures of their food in 2007.
Who's blogging on your Sidekick in 2007? I'm sorry.
It's for Tumblr, dude.
And then he said, I'm drowning. He just said those words very, very straight-laced. Yeah. And then, you're so selfish.
Oh my god.
There's like no emotion at all. It's like anybody could act like that. Like he says all these lines like in a row, and there's no change of like tone or emotion at all. He just delivers them. They're just delivered.
Leigh Whannell is just like, Jesus Christ, I have to figure out what is the thing that will get teenage girls into this, because we have, for some reason, a huge teenage girl audience for this movie.
Yeah. And to be fair, I mean, he was right, obviously, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This movie did generate $102 million in profit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. How do we feel about the brother?
Oh, you mean the character who's there for all of 5 minutes of the film?
I forget exactly what part I wrote it down, but I wrote down, I was just like, where's the brother? Like, stuff keeps happening at night, and he doesn't care at all. And then the one time you see him at night, when at the very end of the movie, when they're actually like doing something, like, it's clearly the middle of the night. The brother is like finally spooked awake. He's fully dressed. And then the dad says, hey, go stay at Ernesto's. Like, is it like 1 a.m.? Like, you could just go to your friend's house now. Like, what has been going on? His character was so odd to me.
I love how there are literally zero like all of the friends exist for all of about 5 minutes.
Now,
Yeah,
it's like
combined
Yeah.
screen.
yeah.
the guy friend, did you guys the fucking thing he wrote on her cast? Hilarious, genuinely funny. You're
love
a
that.
real traffic stopper. Look, if I ever get hit by a car and have my legs broken, I expect the most ridiculous thing you can come up with themed around that. I want your best material, frankly.
LOL, you got hit by a car.
Honestly, that'd be very fun. I would love to look at that while I'm in pain for the next 8 months at that point. Great.
LOL. LOL, I say. LMFAO, I say again.
Perfect. This is exactly what I want out of my broken legs.
Just write that all just down.
Just constantly writing it. I love it.
Love, Bobby.
Love it.
This movie is short on characters, but James Wan decides to make another cameo.
Yeah. I think that was the most decision making he made in regards to this film.
Probably.
Yeah,
I imagine Leigh Whannell shoots him a text and says, "Hey, do you want to be a cameo?" And he says, "Yeah, sure, I could be a casting director." And then Leigh Whannell has to go, "But there's no acting or anything in it." And he's like, "I don't know, figure it out." And then Quinn got that side story. Like, I feel like that's it.
That makes the most sense. Yeah. Well, shit. She's auditioning for a school. I guess we can make it an acting audition.
Right. And he was like, "Okay, bye. I'm making Annabelle. Don't talk to me."
Yeah. I'm making Annabelle, and I might get the Aquaman movie, and I'm very excited about it.
Right. Oh God.
So this is this movie intentionally funny? Is this another intentionally funny?
I don't think that this one is intentionally funny. This is a Leigh Whannell movie. James Wan barely attached, right? Like I think this movie is just bad. I don't think that this.
I
one
cannot wait
funny.
till we stop kidding ourselves with the Saw movies, and you start saying that about the Saw movies too.
Oh, there's a few Saw movies that are definitely funny on purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Saw 3D.
Yeah. Saw 3D is almost a comedy. I mean,
it can't be, right? Because it's either funny or just mean spirited.
We're breaking up with you. That's funny. Okay. That is funny on purpose. I'm sorry.
But anyway, back to another series of films that has gotten progressively worse as it's gone on. So, was there anything you guys enjoyed about Insidious 3? Because I'm willing to make this be a Bobby Island of defending this movie for all the wrong reasons.
I really liked the whole last half hour actually.
Okay.
That was the part when they finally just went for it. Elise was signed on. Specs and the other guy came out,
showed up,
and they just really started
and
doing it.
And Elise went full WWE on the Lady in Black.
Yeah, that was what I was expecting for this movie to be, and I kind of thought that they were gonna do the Insidious Chapter 2 bit where it was it's just immediately after you already know the deal, so all pretense is thrown out, and the hour of pretense made me hate things. But when they finally just went for it, it was very enjoyable.
I would agree with you. The first hour made me hate things.
So I know you said what did I like about the movie, but I'm gonna start by answering something I hated about the movie.
Okay.
I absolutely hate how they had to write it around how they did the whole investigation in Insidious 1 by painfully going, "Oh, what do you do, Leigh Whannell? I write our blog. Write down everything I say." And then he proceeds to actually write down everything she says, and then she has to say, "Okay, maybe stop." It was that sequence of them establishing how they do it, how the hero functions is I think the thing I hated most about this film.
You didn't like how the whole point of the movie was how Specs and other guy became friends with Elise? You didn't like
No.
that was the whole point of this movie?
No, I actually hated it.
Literally,
And
the
how
only
much
thing
they
that came out of this,
ham-fisted and how much they hand-fisted them into the
Oh my
movie in the
God.
beginning. Anyway.
See, that's what the brother did. He discovered them. He watched them online. That was
On his shady
that's the whole reason he
2007
was
internet.
there.
Just-
Yeah.
Listen, that was early stages of YouTube. That was like beginning
I
phases
remember.
of
Also,
YouTube.
like I like how they at the end, right? So Elise hires these people, right? And she asks them, "I think we should go into business together," right? And she says this to them after asking them, "Was that the first ghost you've seen?" And they both say yes. So they are obvious like charlatans up
Yeah, they're
until
frauds.
this point, and she hires them anyway.
Well, I mean, she's in the psychic business. How many charlatans do you think she's come across in her life?
They took care.
But
no,
she's for
that
real.
was the thing.
She's
sure,
the real deal.
but she's seen
Yeah.
so many. And they've
But-
been through the
but-
trenches, Corbin. They
Yeah.
fought a demon together. Okay.
You know what? I'll even take that. It's like,
Maybe
oh,
it's
so you
Corbin
saw the
Island.
real thing, and you're still ready. You're still ready to do it, right? I think that's the bit.
Yeah.
But to actually answer your question, something I did like about this film, the cast kicking off scene is awesome. Like the idea
Oh,
of a
love
ghost kicking casts off because it's fucking annoyed by them being on its whatever's legs, and then the creaky like bones.
His, right?
I don't know. Who cares? The creaky bones like breaking while she's it's almost like they thought, how do we get to this? How do we get to this cool scene? And then there's just like an hour and 10 minutes of very bad, and then like 20 minutes of pretty good after it. It's weird.
I do think I'll say this: my favorite legitimate moment in this entire movie is when they tell you how the ghost, the villain ghost, one died, and they turn it into a pretty spooky jump scare.
How did that
Like,
work
they go,
again?
"Oh."
Remind me.
Yeah, so they the dad, Sean, it finds Quinn, and they follow the ectoplasm
Yes,
footsteps,
and
and then he looks out the window and he goes, "Oh my God!" He jumped.
Okay.
And then she looks and he tries to pull her out the window, and it's the most half decent jump scare in two movies. Again, Darth Maul Demon, still best jump scare in the first movie. His jump scare in this movie, not nearly as good as the setup for that jump scare. The face,
that was enough for me. Was the face in the darkness
with
It's
the
like, oh,
with the dog barking. It's like,
this
yeah,
is a
and
creepy finale
Yeah.
here.
yeah, and they could have left it like that, but then they go Darth Maul Goblin. Doesn't work, but that jump scare I feel like is actually really effective because you're like ready for it not to be spooky, and then it becomes like even more. And then they hit you with the stinger. It's a jump scare in this of the class of Exorcist 3. It's not as good as the Exorcist 3 jump scare, but it is a really effective one. It's the only effective jump scare in this movie because it's the first one that I went, oh shit. And you guys, because we were in the call at that point, that was the one time I moved my body at all.
Another part of this that I actually did, wouldn't go so far as to say but I think the thing that's a little frustrating about this film is I think there's a pretty good idea of like a character who can't physically move but is tormented by a presence. Like that's a scary idea with Quinn being, wheelchair bound with 2 broken legs. Like that.
Yeah, misery plus ghost possession.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like there's a good idea there, but this movie is just not nearly scary enough to execute on it in any way that's like very satisfying. There's this whole sequence in her room where she's kind of being tormented and her dad's gone, and like it works, but it just doesn't do enough to be like actually scary. And it's more frustrating than anything because I hate it when movies have great ideas but then just fail the execution of them in such a spectacular way. And that's kind of like the crux of the problem I have with this film that makes me go, it's not like I can't say it's so bad it's good. It's just so bad. And that's kind of like the crux of my problem here is like failing to deliver on good ideas in such a specific way. Just I can't I'm not in Bobby world. I just can't get there.
But it is funny though. It is pretty funny at times. You got to give it that.
I mean, yeah, but it's frustrating more so than it is funny for me.
Yeah, see, but if you decide to be a cynic about movies, it does get pretty funny in the way that they definitely were not trying it to do that way.
Sure.
And like maybe that's me. Maybe that's the way I do things. If a movie is so bad, I still enjoy it for all the flaws that it imbibes, and most people shouldn't. Right? This movie is let's just say what we want to say here about this. This movie is not good. It's very bad. And part of me hopes that it's the worst Insidious movie, because I do not want to see this movie this movie series continue on a downtrend, because it did not start high enough for this movie to continue on a downtrend. But there are parts of this movie that just had me busting a gut.
Oh, tell us.
Well, again, like the last half an hour of this movie, to Corbin's point, is incredibly funny, because they just go, an old woman, she's wrestling ghosts now,
but Bobby, she's stronger because she's alive,
and also
they
her
give
nemesis.
You the perfect excuse.
Yeah,
she's alive in there. She's more powerful.
Yeah, her nemesis is the villain from the first two, who, if you've watched the first two movies in the close succession that we watched, does not make sense, even remotely. This is, like, it is a terrible plot device.
It feels like they were trying... Okay, so, like, I felt this way for a long time, that Insidious and The Conjuring are a little bit too close together for both being James Wan properties. And that character becoming that character makes it feel like that even more.
Yeah,
she just
it's like, oh yeah, you like Annabelle? How do you feel about Annabelle?
Not Annabelle,
the
nun.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
she feels
she even looks like her.
She feels like a budget nun, and it's like, why did we go down this route? Like, we already have this exact story.
We already have a George
running in the other story. Yeah, like
you want to know why? James Wan and Leigh Whannell absolutely ran a Call of Cthulhu campaign where they co-DM'd, and the nun and the lady in black were both their character that jumped back and forth between one another, and they decided, hey, we love each other, we're best friends, kisses, mwah. Let's go ahead and make two different movie series that go this route with it.
It's just fun. It's just funny because of things like that, and you're probably right. Something, who knows? Like, it just.
I wouldn't say it's a D&D
like,
thing, but yeah.
Yeah, it makes it feel like PG-13, The Conjuring. Like, they both are so similar, but one is R and one is PG-13, and unfortunately, one is better because of it, I think.
I don't even know. I can't even tell you one way or the other. They're both real bad.
I'm excited for us to eventually do the Conjuring series. This can be a great 2.5 months.
Oh, God. You're going to make me do the Annabelle and the Nun movies?
That.
Oh, yeah. And The Curse of La Llorona.
Oh, I forgot. At least it's got Velma in it.
Yeah. Bobby, what did you hate about this film? Like, actually dislike?
Most of it, to be completely honest with you. It's terribly paced. There's about an hour of unneeded stuff. This movie could have been a short. They ham-fist Specs and other guy into it. The family dynamic does not make any sense. The son is a non-entity. The friends are a non-entity. There are 2 scenes with the friends in there, and like they make themselves seem so important, and then they're just not in the movie. Like,
Bobby, she texts him, and a spooky, scary knock happens, but he wasn't there knocking.
And
that
they
was another
exist.
Scene.
They
3 scenes.
They exist.
That was a solid setup, actually.
They exist.
Yeah.
They exist to do solid setups. That's what these characters exist for, right? Because the other one's like, who's that other person in your room right now? They're in the corner, even though when you look at the camera, there's no way she could have seen anywhere outside of the frame.
Oh my God. With how tight
right
the FOV is on that shit, there's
How?
Yeah. And then
like,
she looks and sees in the curtain, like all the way, like 15 feet away. Yeah. In her giant ass
perpendicular
room.
with a laptop. Camera. Yeah.
The fact that they live in such a big ass apartment for being a blue collar worker
in New York City.
Yeah. No, they're not in
They
New
don't
York
live in
City.
New York. Yeah,
They're
did.
probably in New Jersey. I think that's the implication.
because the school was in New York, and they made it seem like it was at least somewhat far away.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, which also means that this entire thing is actually taking place on the East Coast and not the West Coast, which makes the palm trees an interesting thing.
Wait, well,
the
no, I guess it could be the West Coast because like, but then why would the audition be there? I don't know. But Elise lives there, and Elise lived close to wherever the first movie took place.
Yes. So
Where did
again,
the first movie take place? I don't remember.
they don't ever say, but there are
Oh,
palm
okay.
trees.
Well, those are the New Jersey palm trees. So,
Yeah.
so I had a couple of. Go ahead.
This movie is full of plot holes. That's another thing I don't like. I hate movies with plot holes.
First Insidious was in L.A.
Okay.
Yeah, Insidious 3, where does it actually take place?
Yeah, it doesn't
Chapter
say. Can
3
we fill
take
this
place.
hole?
No idea. Doesn't say anything.
I love that. What about the second one? Where's the second one happen? Is it still L.A.?
Well, it would have to
Also-
because it's immediately after, so it should still be L.A., right?
Yeah, but the Insidious 1 takes place in like multiple locations.
I don't know. It doesn't say. I don't see anything.
All right, well, whatever. Anyway,
Terrible.
New
You asked me
Jersey.
what I didn't like about
New
the
Jersey
movie.
palm trees.
This, all of this. I hate all of it.
I had a couple of quick hits here right before
Okay.
we go. So first of all, we didn't talk about it, but it is very, very funny to me that Elise spent her entire career fighting demons, and knowing about this other world, hell, basically, and
It's called The
name
Further.
doesn't name it until this movie. Yeah. What is that? Nobody's ever asked her before? She didn't have a name for it? She's been thinking about it for the last 50 years, and she just thinks about
So
it as
I have an
the
idea.
other world.
We should call it this here because this is the most intense fighting demon I've
Yeah.
ever had. Even though there's no way it can be, right?
Right.
Like,
No, yeah, there's no way. And like the way that she names it feels like in Star Wars Revenge of the Sith when Emperor Palpatine is naming Darth Vader and he's like, "You'll be Darth Vader." And it's like
rise,
what?
Lord Vader.
Yeah, that's how it felt, because he's like, "What is it? The Further." We'll call it that. Okay, anyway, it's like, why did we include that scene? Terrible. And then
A dark place. I call it The Further. That's all they like. When she was talking
That's
about
it,
the
yeah.
dark.
terrible.
Some call it hell. I call it The Further. Like that would have
Right.
been so easy.
Writes itself almost.
2 movies ago, it would have been easy.
I noticed that Elise ate a peanut butter and jelly and a glass of milk for dinner, and then went to sleep on top of the covers. Psychopath, right? And then
No.
not-
Peanut butter and jelly
not
and warm
Specs-
milk for
not
dinner
Specs,
is a
But the other guy,
yeah.
his introduction. He's eating a cupcake in the wrapper still. Psychopath. What is going on with
His name is Tucker, by the way. His name is Tucker.
Tucker.
Well, see, Corbin, you're forgetting.
Yeah.
He hasn't had time to develop into the character who eats Hot Pockets with the wrapper still on.
Still in the wrapper.
Also
yeah,
a psychopath.
Psychopath. Who does that? And like, okay, Bobby, I can enjoy a good PB&J, right? I'll eat a PB&J for dinner anytime.
Yeah.
But like, who's drinking a glass of milk with their dinner like that size as an adult? Who does that?
Somebody who wants to go to bed over the covers. That's the psychopath. That's the psychopath. I don't care how hot it is. It could be 112 degrees. I'm
Put a
putting
fan
the covers
on.
over at least a little over my body.
Yeah, cover
Yeah,
like the
that's what-
midsection.
that's-
That's the way to do
Or
it.
at least like just get like a thin sheet instead. Like I know you don't need the whole comforter, but like something.
No, I'm putting the comforter somewhere on my body, or at least I'm
Oh.
cuddling the comforter, right? Like she doesn't even comfort the. She doesn't even she just has the sweater next to her. So it's the weirdest fucking thing.
She lays on top of it like it's like a hotel bed that she's afraid
Yeah.
of disturbing.
She's like Ned Flanders, not wanting to disrupt the Maud's crevice.
Exactly.
Oh, I
my
love The
God.
Simpsons. Great show. Great show.
Boys, I think we're
Hey,
ready.
are we ready to rate this shitty bad boy?
I'm ready to rate it.
Bobby, tell me
All
how
right,
we do
so,
that.
yeah, so we rate this movie on a scale of 0 to 1.5. Technically, with half points allowed. Technically, we can go to 5, but I know where this is going. Quarter points not allowed, but 1.5s and 1s are allowed. We're going to start with Corbin, who I still think might rate this above a 1.5. Go for it, champ.
All right, so, I am the biggest proponent of two things on this show, okay? And those two things are PG-13 horror movies and mainstream horror movies, right? Big, schlocky, like, Hollywood blockbuster horror movies. And this movie is both of those things, right? And it, unfortunately, right, does not reach the heights of the first two movies, which I gave both of them 3.5, which I would definitely stand by. This movie, in fact, reminds me of a different PG-13 horror movie, one that we reviewed on this show 61 episodes ago. That movie is called Lights Out. It is a movie that is simply not scary, it's not very enjoyable, and is the worst of PG-13 horror.
Oh, man.
And I believe that this movie is on that level, and for that, I give it a 1.5.
That movie also has a suicide plot. Oh my god, there's so much of a connection point. Why didn't you bring this up sooner?
He had to save his stinger.
One last bit.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go with myself next.
Okay.
And I'm going to give this movie a Bobby 1.5 out of 5. It is so bad, I kind of like it, and I might watch it a third time.
Can't imagine
It's just there's just moments of brilliance beyond itself. If this movie branded itself as a black comedy, this movie might be good. It didn't, nor does it. And half of the reason why it's funny is because it just shouldn't be. It's bad. It's poorly paced. It does not work. And I love that for it. 1.5 out of 5.
If you remember from last week, I quite enjoyed Insidious Chapter 2. In fact, I gave it a 3.5. I gave it a full point higher than Insidious 1. I really enjoyed it. I said I thought that it did a great job in keeping the rising action going and not giving us any, like, nonsense that we really need to worry about. Like, you watch the fucking movie, we know what happened, go. This movie is the polar opposite of that. So instead of just losing a point, it's losing a point and a half for wasting my fucking time 2 times. 1 out of 5. This movie was frustrating. This movie doesn't do anything well, really. There's a paper-thin plot. There's the most incapable father with the worst lines I think we've had in just about any dad in a horror movie so far. It's just frustratingly bad because the good ideas that they have are so poorly executed that it just doesn't do anything effective. And the small bits of good and hilarity that are in here, while enjoyable, just don't do nearly enough for me to give it anything more than a 1.
Well, there you go. Pretty low scores, but that's not the only thing we do on this show. We also discuss whether or not a movie is essential to horror as a whole. If you skip forward to this section, this is spoiler-free. Bobby and I both gave it a 1.5 out of 5, and Alan gave it a 1 out of 5. If you've been listening along to our Insidious month so far, you'll notice these scores are pretty low compared to the last two, but that doesn't mean this movie isn't essential. Bobby, is Insidious Chapter 3 an essential horror movie?
Spoiler free, of course.
Of course.
Spoiling couldn't be us.
Imagine.
I gave this movie a Bobby 1.5 out of 5, which is a so bad it's good 1.5 out of 5. Now, if there's been movies that have absolutely been essential, I don't 1.5 out of 5. And the question becomes, does Insidious Chapter 3, a movie that does provide us some quote-unquote needed context for the Insidious movies, does this movie make it essential? Of course it doesn't. This movie is very bad. I do not like it, but I love it. There is so much goofy nonsense in this movie that I get why it made that much money, but it's a bad film. There is nothing to be gained from watching this movie. You'll laugh through if you have the if you like cringe like I do, you'll laugh through this movie. Otherwise, skip it. And that's God's honest truth there. No, it isn't.
So, I made a statement when we began this month watching Insidious Chapter 1 that I had full faith that one of these movies would be essential, right? And I kind of gave the first movie a no on the assumption that along the way, something was going to come along that really hit. And there was a few things that I knew about the franchise that I thought would make it essential. Okay, and one of those things was Elise being the lead character, which is kind of a big deal because she's an old woman, but she's like also perfectly capable and is like a refreshing thing for horror as a whole, right? Now, unfortunately, this movie fails in two ways. She's not quite the lead yet, and they don't quite jump the shark yet. And I think that those two things are what's necessary. Do they happen in the next movie? I don't know.
He's hoping.
Never watched
He's
these movies
praying.
before,
He
and
is
I don't know what the
praying.
next one's about. I absolutely am. Maybe I'm hoping one of these four movies is essential, but it's not Insidious Chapter 3.
Did you hear the change there, audience? I just need to say it really quickly. We said, Chapter 1, one of these movies absolutely is essential. Chapter 2, one of these movies absolutely is essential. Chapter 3, I am hoping one of these movies is essential.
No, it's not. I mean,
We are a monolith. We are a monolith.
it's just there's nothing. There's no meat on this bone. We were handed a husk. It's decaying in front of us and becoming dust. There's just nothing here to really like add to the leg of horror. There's just nothing there. Corbin, though, I do have a question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
Are you reserving? Because I asked you this last week about Chapter 2, and we would revisit this. Or are we going to wait till next week to make our final call on Chapter 2, potentially being essential from Corbin?
I would like to. Yes, because
You're requesting an extension on your assignment, sir?
If I expected Chapter 3 to be a sequel, right?
Yeah.
And so I expected to get what I wanted out of it. Now I believe that The Last Key is a sequel to 2 from Elise's point of view, right? And I believe that could fulfill my obligations. And if true, I would like to request.
Okay, extended. We'll revisit this topic next week.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting that Corbin gets an extended, but we always laugh at Bobby when he makes his. I would like to make my tentative yeses or nos, but Corbin's
the
fine.
host. He gets host privilege.
No.
It took me fine. It took me 70 movies to ask for this.
Listen.
You've said it too many times.
No. I've said it twice. I've said it 2 times.
It's double.
I've said it 2 times. One time I said it for a movie that I
did
said
that at the
no,
beginning
but
of the show.
I said no. I said no with the
episode.
tentative. I said no with the tentative possible yes, and I'm holding on to that no, right? And the other one, which I cannot remember, I think I said yes tentatively. Mm-hmm. I want to say it's 5 Cream. I think I said 5 Cream is tentatively a yes. No. Actually, that's not true. Halloween ends. Halloween ends. Yeah, Halloween ends was the tentative yes, which I still hold on to. I think that Halloween ends can tentatively remain a yes.
We're gonna find out.
Also, Insidious: The Last Key is a sequel to Insidious 3.
Well, I'm sure they're all sequels to it. I mean, but
Anyway,
we'll see.
just wanted to say that.
Yep.
Well, speaking of sequels that nobody asked for, what are your name? What are your handles? Where can we find you? What you been doing?
You can find me anywhere at Corbangerang. I have not been up to too much compared to previously. I am catching up on The Walking Dead. I don't remember if I have mentioned that before, but I am. So that's pretty much taking up all of my TV time. Not that there's a ton of episodes, but I don't have a lot of TV time. And then building Warhammer and retrofitting my garage. That's kind of everything right now. We mentioned it earlier, but Alan was up visiting all of us this past weekend, which was pretty cool.
It was fun.
So, that was a nice change of pace.
Alan, how many games did you win in our local Warhammer meta?
Big ol' zip.
It's a big old goose egg, gang.
It's interesting because I'm pretty sure that Bobby and I went undefeated on Saturday.
It's true. It's true. That did happen. Yeah. I did win my game, and Corbin won both of us.
Okay.
He didn't lose.
I didn't lose. I actually won fairly handedly, I would say. I tabled and also scored. I maxed out on 2 of my secondaries.
And it's just tough because we're putting the Essential Scarce team at a 3-2 for the weekend, which is fine. It's a fine record, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying.
No, wait. Actually, it is a 3-2. Yeah, we technically have a winning record, but
yeah.
Look, I'm gonna pull my weight next Super Saturday. Okay, I'm gonna be ready to roll.
It's interesting because you have more points of the army we both played, and yet I won the game.
Okay, but it's
points
not
don't
about
make
the size
player,
of the
I
points.
guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess
the girth
it's
of the
being
points.
a better player. It's not the length of the points, it's the motion of the player.
Woo, boy. Yeah, so anyway, you can find me at Corbangerang anywhere, specifically Twitter, really. Or you can find me at Bolters_Bourbon on Twitter, talking about Warhammer. Or, for the first time ever, you can find me at BoltersandBourbon at Warhammer.social on Mastodon. I'm there.
Oh.
Find me.
Oh my gosh. Getting in while the going's early. I like that. You can find me at
It's nice.
A Seal Punter, not on Mastodon.
Boo.
As we mentioned, I was just up in their neck of the woods to play some Warhammer this weekend. It was fun. I got rocked, mostly because I didn't understand how objective securing effectively worked, and that kind of screwed me. And then I also just made plenty of mistakes. So we're gonna come back fierce and ready to roll. It's been that's really been about it for me. Playing the new God of War. It's amazing. It's more God of War. That's it.
Sick. You can find me at twitch.tv/theredweenie, and maybe by date of release, you might be able to find me on Mastodon at the Red Weenie. I think that I want to join that because Twitter is a dumpster fire that is falling apart because Elon Musk is a shitty billionaire. That's right. We're getting political at the end this time. Other than that, again, I built all of my leagues of Votann as well as played a solid game. Other than that, I have actually played Space Lines from the Far Out. Me and my wife played this game. We downloaded it for the Xbox. It's on Game Pass. It is a roguelike spacefaring airline simulator. And it is a lot of fun. It's a lot like what is that game? The cooking game.
Overcooked.
It's a lot like Overcooked, but it's an airline roguelike. And me and my wife have really, producer Mallory, have been really enjoying it because it's a roguelike and we can play it as a team. It's a lot of fun. I play pilot, she plays stewardess. It sounds sexist. It's just the way things shook out.
Bobby the sexist. Tweet at Bobby the sexist.
Yeah. Tweet at Bobby the sexist. It's all good. But
yeah, you can say whatever you want on Twitter now. So
that's true.
Yeah, exactly. Let freedom ring, baby. Everybody, quote unquote, parody Elon Musk. It's very funny, and I've been watching. It's been very fun to watch this dumpster fire of an app go down the drain finally. But yeah, it's really fun, and I don't think it gets a lot of plays because I haven't seen anybody else talk about it.
This
but
is the first time hearing about it.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty cool. We picked it
awesome.
out because I thought she might like it, and I mean, I've been very excited to play it again. We played it the day before day of recording, and we will probably play it many more times going forward. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
And you can find the podcast. Yeah. Oh, well, you can find it at Essential Scares almost anywhere. Specifically, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's where we are active currently. And we'd love it if you gave us a follow. Will Essential Scares be joining Mastodon in the future? Maybe. We'll see what happens. If you like the show, we really appreciate a like, a retweet, a follow, a rating, subscribe, share with your friends and family. There's so many things you can do, and you know what they are better than we know what they are. But every time we get that little notification, it just inspires us to keep going. So
dopamine.
Hit us up. In the bios for all of our socials, we have links to our Discord, and we talk in there every day about movies, music, and games, and more. And we are also always taking suggestions on future movies or franchises to cover for the show in the future. So if there's something you'd like to see us do, let us know, and we will absolutely take it into consideration. But with that, we're all set for the week. Thank you so much to Alan and Bobby for being on the show with me. Next week, we are finishing off our month of Insidious with Insidious: The Last Key. I have been your host, Corbin, and this has been Essential Scares.
Played that breakdown from a few years ago, Dave.